Let's see how this looks in like the daylight, because yesterday I didn't have this light on in here when I was trying this out. So let's see how this works. Oh, still very bright. Okay, let's turn that down a little bit. All right. Yeah, I think I still like the warm version. I think the warm one is probably the one I'll go with the most often, just because I like that. And obviously, no glasses, so I'll just take these off for the moment. So yeah, I got a ring light, so that's really awesome. That came in yesterday, which I was surprised by because I didn't know that like packages from like Amazon and stuff would even come in on like Sundays, but I guess like UPS and FedEx or something are very different than like the postal service. So good morning. It is now just getting to be 8 o'clock. Getting ready here to start some work here once I figure out what exactly is going on. Today's the first day of the HouseCupathon and the FeelGoodathon, so happy reading, everybody. I found out last night that Hufflepuff ended up getting the first 100 points of the readathon last night because somebody had finished a graphic novel within the first few hours of their reading, because we all started at midnight in our time zones. So this person ended up starting earlier than I did because they hit midnight earlier than I did, and they had a graphic novel, so it was really easy to fly through for that. The whole thing with this round is what we're doing is we're doing averages this time. We're not going to do a total point system because while that was really nice to do last year, we had an overwhelming majority of people in Ravenclaw, and last time we did this, Gryffindor only had one other person besides Adri in the team that was actually participating. So it was very unfair because they had no chance to beat Ravenclaw. I think Ravenclaw ended up with like over 14,000 points by the end of the month, and I think Gryffindor didn't even have 5,000 by the end of it. So we decided this time to do averages to make it a lot easier and then make it a lot more fair. But I will say that Gryffindor has really stepped up. They've had a lot of people come out for this round. Actually, teams are now fairly even in terms of the amount of people we have. So I think averages should work out very, very well. So what am I planning on reading today? So today I had a whole reading schedule that I have essentially created of the books that I have on my TBR for this month. This doesn't include though my random TBR or my library lottery picks, because what I plan on using with those is kind of more of like kind of back burner stuff, but like if I complete my reading goal for each day before the end of the day and I still have energy to read, I'll be picking up other books like my random TBRs or the other books I have on my TBR, like the Dorothy Must Die short story collections, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and getting through another chunk of that, you know, whatever kind of hits my fancy at the moment. What I do plan on reading at the first few days, essentially, which this is kind of why I think I would need like a back burner book, is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. Excuse me. This is a buddy reading with Jess, nevertheless, who is one of the hosts of the FeelGoodathon. And so this one in particular, we are reading, I think it was 5 chapters a day. There's 20 chapters in this book, and it's fairly short for the most part. The book itself is just over 300 pages. So I think this is one of those books where like I would want a back burner book by the end of the day, because I will have reached my goal by the end of every day that I work for the most part. So I think what I might do tonight is I might even pick up the Aeneid by the end of the day by Virgil, because that was my random TBR pick from May that I hadn't gotten to, and so that's like the first thing that on my TBR cart that I see that I'm like, I probably should get to that one at some point, because I think that it would be a good back burner book, and it's also written in like poetry like style, so it's one of those stories where it's gonna take not nearly as long for me to read, depending on exactly how difficult the language is. So today I want to get to chapter 5 of Little Fires Everywhere. I think I may even annotate this a little bit because this is a reread for me, and I want to see my thoughts on it reading it physically as opposed to having read it through audiobook last year. So I'm undecided though if I want to annotate it. I liked it a lot when I had read it the first time, but I had some just like very polarizing thoughts on it because it indicated a lot of things that I think I agreed with in terms of like this happens in like a small town area, especially where there's predominantly a white community. And then there were some things about it that I was kind of like, that seems a little on the extreme side. So I kind of want to reread it to get a better understanding of what exactly does happen, because there's a lot of things I think that I've now also forgotten in the last 6 months since I've read it. So I think that that's one of the things I'm gonna really focus on, and that's why I kind of not sure if I want to annotate it or not, because I kind of want to pull out those really important parts of it. But I also don't know if by rereading it I'm gonna like it any more than when I did the first time, or if I even would want to keep it after I've read it. But I have to get started with work today. I don't have anything else planned for the day. I just have videos that are scheduled already that are going live. I should have had one go out today, which was my makeup inspired by video, I think at like 8 o'clock this morning. I have 2 other videos going out today that I had scheduled, which are my May wrap up and my June TBR, which is my extensive TBR. So you guys should have seen all those. Okay, so it's about 10:18 in the morning. I am currently on a break, and as you guys saw, was reading a little bit of Little Fires Everywhere. I just read the first chapter, and immediately things started like coming back to me about what exactly this book was about, and kind of the things that I remember happening in terms of like what exactly is the main problem here. The first chapter opens up where there is a house fire with one of the main characters' homes, Mrs. Richardson. She is a white woman, and she has, you know, a husband. She's got 4 kids, and everyone is starting to think that her youngest daughter, Isabel, is the one who started the fire. Very early on in the chapter, we hear that a lot of people are thinking that Isabel is kind of a wild child. She doesn't really listen to a lot of people, and her siblings even talk about the fact that if they ever find Isabel as she's gone missing, her parents will likely put her in a psych ward, because there's been a lot of instances, it seems like, where Isabel has flown off the handle and has kind of caused some kind of damage. Essentially, this is where the story takes off, and then we backtrack to what exactly led up to this point. One of which is already mentioned in the very beginning, is that there is a young Chinese child, I think she might even still be a baby at this point, that had been taken from her mother because her mother was unable to provide for her. And it's mentioned very briefly that there was some kind of argument as to whether or not this child should still be with her mother, or if she should get adopted by another family, which that was something I had completely forgotten about with the book. But now that I remember that aspect, there's so much more of this book that I remember that I think was very on the extreme side. I think in some cases, this is, I think, the part where like that particular storyline of the whole book was where I feel like a lot of extremes had gone with the story, because there were some things that happened with the whole case of the adoption thing that I think kind of was like, I don't really know if that would exactly happen that way, but I have no idea, because I've never adopted a child. I've never adopted a child from a mother that had willingly given her up and then had decided she wanted her back. Like, I've never gone through that scenario, so I have no idea whether or not that's really true. But regardless, there are already inklings of that kind of storyline, and so that's kind of where the story kind of picks up, is that we go back in time to what exactly had led up to the fire of the Richardson house, as they are huge parts of the story. story, Mrs. Richardson in particular, this is very much a story where people take sides in this, and it kind of threatens the whole dynamic of the town and the neighborhood itself. Like, it's one of those things where when one thing happens, everybody takes sides on it, and it can completely destroy friendships and families and things of that nature when it has nothing to do with them. Especially with the relationship between like Mia and Mrs. Richardson. Like, they have nothing exactly to do with what is going on with this adoption problem. Mia is just a friend of the mother that is trying to get her daughter back, and Mrs. Richardson is like completely on the other side of the argument, where she doesn't believe this woman should have her child, kind of thing. So it's very interesting how this plays so well into small town politics and small town ideas, and like how especially one particular incident that nobody has anything else to do with other than hearing things and hearing rumors and things of that nature, how they will get so bent out of shape about it. It's so dumb. And that is exactly what happened to a lot of things that when I was in school. Was if one thing happened, everybody in town had an opinion on it, and it was varied, and it was never a fun time. You can never bring up something like that and expect it to be a pleasant conversation, because more often than not, if you talk to somebody about the particular situation, you would be talking to somebody who would have a very differing opinion from yourself. And so it's just, it was really bizarre. And that's kind of where I think that sometimes this kind of got a little extreme, because I felt like in some cases, like, the people involved with it got really bent out of shape for no reason, and I feel like it was kind of extreme in that sense. But this is where my like big issue had come with deciding whether or not this was going to be a 2 or a 4-star, was because I couldn't really justify why some people were being the way they were, because it didn't make sense considering that none of this had anything to do with them. So it's interesting how already within the first chapter I am thinking about all these things again and how irritated I got with it. But I think that in general with this, my feeling with what I'm going to experience this time around is I'm going to kind of understand the conversation a little bit better, and I might not be as put off by what exactly everyone thinks, and I can actually see the conversation develop a lot more this time around, and probably actually end up liking this story about as much as I did when I first read it. But now that I'm not as centered in on the original like thoughts I had with it, I think that it's gonna work out in this book's favor, where I'm gonna still like it as much, maybe not even more. And I am interested in watching the TV show that's on Hulu, because I've heard that the Hulu show is really, really good. And obviously Reese Witherspoon, I think, is a perfect example of what Mrs. Richardson is. You know, the white woman who's blonde, seems to have everything put together, is rich. You know, Reese Witherspoon plays that character very, very well, and it is not a surprise why she's constantly placed in that role. So I'm still on a bit of a break for the next couple minutes before I go back to work. So I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of check in on a couple things for work. I'm gonna try to every break read a chapter of this, but so far, first chapter, really already enjoying this again and feeling like I can have a better understanding and have a better thought process on how I want to talk about this book, I think. And then also just kind of having some really good talking points, I think, that I might have with Jess here starting tomorrow. We're going to have little meetings over the course of the rest of the week to discuss the book. And I'm really excited to hear what her thoughts are, because she did grow up in a small town that was maybe not similar to this, but she did grow up in a small town for most of her life. And so I want to see what she thinks of this and see if this emulates anything that she might have experienced growing up, because there were a lot of things in this that I was very much like, that happened quite often, and it kind of makes me upset that it still happens in my hometown. Okay, so it's not much later, but I did just finish my reading today for Little Fires Everywhere, so I've read the first 5 chapters today. So my thoughts on it now, having read a few chapters and gotten about 56 pages into it, so far it's actually about as good as I remember it being. I think I'm picking up on a lot more things though now with reading the physical book as opposed to the audiobook, because one of the things I'm picking up is that This book is placed in like the late 90s, early 2000s, which I don't think I caught the first time reading this. I thought that this was more of a modern day story, which it's interesting because there's so many references to really place the time period in. So like music artists and little things here and there about like contemporary culture, things of that nature. But really it's the music groups that put it there for me because obviously music is a real good indicator of your time period. One of the things that I think too I am picking up a little bit more on is some of the nuances of some of the people that are white in this community and how they kind of interact very differently than what I think that they did in the audiobook. For instance, one of the characters, one of the Richardsons, Lexi, she's a really smart girl. Like, she's obviously very intelligent, but there's some things I think socially she doesn't quite understand, and I think that that's because of the lack of interaction she may get with different kinds of people. She does, in this story, we are told she is dating a black male, and so she may have some inklings as to like how things might be racist, but there's a whole scene where they talk about her watching things like Jerry Springer with Pearl and her siblings, and there's a moment where there's an episode of like one of the kids in there trying to find out about their dad and all these things, and she turns to Pearl, who has a single mom, and asks her about, hey, did you ever want to like figure out who your dad was or where he is? And it's things like that where like this character doesn't necessarily always know the right thing to say. Like, they're really smart, but they don't always know that there's some things you just you don't say to certain people. And it kind of reminds me a lot of like, I think especially when I was really getting involved with things like Black Lives Matter movement, all that stuff, this book kind of ties hand in hand quite a bit with a lot of the stuff that is going on now, surprisingly. But just when I was growing up, like, I didn't always know that things were necessarily wrong until people told me they were wrong. And it was only through my willingness to learn and my willingness to engage in conversation about what exactly was wrong versus right when it comes to interacting with different kinds of people that I actually learned anything from them. And so this is kind of one of those books where you kind of start to learn that if these characters may have just had conversations with people about, intentions and what exactly is right or wrong in terms of what you say to people or how you go about talking about certain things with people, a lot of headaches would have been solved. And I think that it's not exactly a real carbon copy of what we're dealing with now, but this is one of those books that I think you could learn some things about just how weird white people can be when it comes to people that are not white. Okay, so it is much later in the evening. It's like almost 8 o'clock, I think, at night, and as you can see, I'm doing a face mask. I haven't done a facial in like a while, so please excuse the fact that I look super weird doing this, but I wanted to update you guys with what I had planned for the rest of the night. Since I finished my reading for Little Fires Everywhere already today, I think I'm gonna spend the evening working on The Aeneid by Virgil. I also realized earlier today, though, that I didn't check out my copy of The Stand by Stephen King, which sucks because I might not be able to get it by the end of the month now, and I can't go get a physical copy, I don't think. But I did hear today that there's a lot of stuff that's supposed to be opening back up in the state of Michigan. So I think that maybe the public library should open up here fairly soon, which then also means I have to go all the way back 40 minutes away where I used to live to return the books that I still have from that other library. So it's gonna be interesting how that's gonna all work out. I hope I can just package them up and then ship them that way, because I really don't want to have to go all the way out there if I don't have to, but I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna sit with this mask on for the next like 7-8 minutes and then go sit and read the Aeneid for the rest of the night. Okay, so it is about 10:15 right now in the evening. We are gonna end day 1 right here of the HouseCupathon. Also, I have a little smiley face on my finger, courtesy of Robert. So end of day 1. I did some pretty good reading. I'm pretty proud of myself. I stuck to my reading schedule and even actually was able to get a little bit more reading done than I had expected. So I got through the first 5 chapters of Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste for my buddy read with Jess for the FeelGoodathon. I also ended up reading 30 pages of The Aeneid by Virgil, which is pretty good, but I think that this is one of those things where it's so old I'm gonna have to like go back constantly with like wiki notes or something like that to like figure out what the heck's going on. I kind of had to do that with the Divine Comedy, but I also had the Divine Comedy as part of a class, so we were able to talk about it more. And I feel like this is just, these really old texts from like ancient Greece and stuff are like really hard to dive into. So I think I need to like go through like wiki notes or like Spark Notes or something like that to figure out what the heck's going on. I also did finish an audiobook, but I'm not counting it for the HouseCupathon because I had started it in May, and that is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I finished that audiobook today while I was working, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I bawled my eyes out at the very end of it. It was heartbreaking, and I don't know, I didn't realize that this was also going to involve the sinking of a ship, but during World War II as opposed to World War I, because I just also recently listened to Dead Wake by Eric Larson, which was a nonfiction account of what exactly happened to the Lusitania, which was a really, really well-known ship that sank due to torpedoes from a U-boat that had hit it. And Salt to the Sea is about another actual real-life ship that was sunk, but it was by Russian soldiers during World War II, and it was called the Wilhelm Gustave, and that was like one of the most tragic shipwrecks of all time, because I think it was like 9,000 people, 5,000 of them children, were killed because of the torpedoes and because the ship sank, and many of them were not able to get to safety, unfortunately. And it's like, it's a historical fiction story where the shipwreck itself and the torpedo attack itself was real, but the characters involved in the story are not. They are fictionalized characters based on information given about the ship, and so they're kind of like, they were woven into the story of already what was happening with the ship itself. So I loved it. I think I've really gotten into Ruta Sepetys. I still don't know if it's Sepetys or Sepetys. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I really like a lot of her work. I think that I will definitely be picking up Ashes Like Snow or Between Shades of Grey, which is the title of the actual book as opposed to the movie. I think I'll definitely pick that one up, and I think she's now going to be an auto-buy historical fiction author for me, because I love her crafting of her stories, and you can tell like each of her stories are so vastly researched. Like, I listened to Out of the Easy at the end of last year, and I really liked that one a lot. And like I said, I loved Salt to the Sea, so I think that she's now going to be an auto-buy author for me when it comes to anything that this woman puts out, because she's incredible. Hufflepuff today started out strong with getting the first 100 points of the readathon. We kind of coasted in 3rd place for a while. Ravenclaw, to my knowledge, still does not have their points in, so I don't know if this is going to be completely accurate by the time I wake up tomorrow, but as it stands now, with Ravenclaw not including their points at this point in the whole thing, Hufflepuff is in 2nd place with the averages. We have 110 points on average per person, and Slytherin is in the lead, but not by much. They're not too far ahead of us. So I've got one person already that's completed 3 books in the span of a day, or maybe like a day and a half for them, because I think that they started earlier than we did. I'm super happy with how this round's already turning out. I'm so excited to see how it all ends up at the end of the month, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch either. So anyway, I'm going to head off for the night, and I will see all of you guys tomorrow. morning, everybody. It is 8:30. As you guys just saw, I've been sitting here doing some work for the last half an hour. This moment, there's nothing else I can do, really. It's been pretty much the norm for the last couple weeks, is where, like, the beginning of the day, I am able to do some work for maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending. And then for the rest of the day, it is very, very touch and go with work in terms of everything. So yeah, so today, I mean, I haven't really read anything as of yet, but I will be here taking a break. Every about 55 minutes that I work, I try to take a break for about 20 minutes or so to like the next quarter of the hour. And I do have something that I can like work on to kind of keep me busy for the next like 25 minutes until my break. So I'm going to work on that. It's kind of like a filler thing anyway, where like we use it to like, if there's nothing absolutely I can do. I do know that there is like a huge project though that one of my coworkers is going to need help on, like here and there, just like reviewing the documents that they have to make. So I know that that's going to come through probably over the course of the day as well. So there's always that, but those usually take me anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes to do. And especially with this particular project, like the documents are supposed to be pretty much like 2 or 3 pages. So it's not very long for me to go through those. My plan for though today is tonight I am sitting down with Jess for our Little Fires Everywhere discussion. I think tonight we're going over the first 5 chapters of Little Fires Everywhere. I'm not gonna try to read this today because I don't want to like jump too far ahead in our reading schedule. So probably what I will do then, since I'm not going to be picking this up, is I'm going to go back to reading more of the Aeneid by Virgil, since this is my back burner book. I think today what I might try to do is get through the second, maybe the third section of this today, depending on how long it takes me to get through it, because it wasn't too long for me to get through the first like 30 pages, which was like the first section of this, but I definitely am gonna need to like go back and look up some notes on it, because I kind of got some particular scenes, like I understood what was going on in very particular scenes, but in general I think I lost the overall point of what was happening. As of this morning, I don't believe everybody put in their points that people sent in last night, but as of this morning when I put my points in, Hufflepuff was in the lead with averages with like 126.76 I think points, but like I said, not everybody's put their points in as of yet this morning, so that could change. And yeah, so it's looking pretty good. It looks like it might be a very, very close race to everybody. Like everyone's starting to get their points in, and I think it's gonna end up being like a surprise. Like we're not gonna know really until the end of the last day who wins, because it's gonna probably be so neck and neck for a good long while. Oh, before I forget, I almost completely forgot, because this is supposed to be also my FeelGoodathon vlog as well as my HouseCupathon one. I already have gotten through a lot of the FeelGoodathon like self-care prompts. So I read a book yesterday while snuggling. I was reading the Aeneid while snuggling in bed yesterday. I made sure to eat because I had my lunch, and I had a very nice dinner last night. Our roommate Ryan cooked up some burgers and they were amazing. I did actually sit and laugh for quite a while yesterday. I had a really nice evening with Robert, so that made things a lot easier. And I did tell somebody I love them, which I told Robert that because I do love him very, very much. He is a lot of times the light in my life, and I always want to make sure he knows that I love him, because I do. So it's lunchtime, it's about 12:11, and I've so far made quite a bit of more progress in the Aeneid. I've got through I think like 18 more pages of it as of today. So I've got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, some Pringles, some ranch flavored Pringles, an apple and a banana. Very tired, very, very tired. I think that today I may skip my yoga routine and take a nap instead, because I'm very tired. I don't feel great, and Robert didn't either when he headed off to work today. So I think that with this rain that's coming in, I'm just starting to feel really drowsy. So I'm gonna eat my lunch though, because that might help, and probably take some ibuprofen or something, and then getting back to work in like half an hour after I finish my lunch. Robert went and got me nugs after he got out of his orientation for work. There's 3 left in here. There were 20. And I still had my lunch. So it's about 3:47. I'm pretty much done for the day. I've done everything I can, and now I just gotta wait for 3:55 to roll around basically, and
yeah, so I'm kind of feeling meh. Still not feeling the best after lunch and everything. And so I'm still really like tired. My headache is starting to go away though, but I'm just really, really exhausted. So I think that I'm gonna sit and probably take a nap for a little while, for like maybe an hour and a half. And then I'm gonna get up and take a shower. I think that at some point tonight, Robert's gonna go outside and do this art project thing he wants to do. So I think I might go sit outside with him because today it's like 84, 85 degrees. We've had temperatures over last week end up being like in the high 80s up to upwards of 90 degrees. And then over the weekend, we had like cooler temperatures, like down below 70 degrees. Yesterday it was like 75, I think, and it was really nice. And then today it's like shooting back up because we're having more rain come in sometime either tonight or tomorrow. And I think it's supposed to stay fairly warm for the next couple days, but then drop back down again. So yay for pressure headaches. Hate those. But I'm starting to feel better. And I think probably once I have my nap and then I take a shower, I should feel even more like myself. And I think I'll just sit outside with Robert after I sit with Jess and talk and we have dinner and watch him do art stuff while I read more of the Aeneid, because I'm kind of in a mood to just get through this one today. I kind of want to try to get through the rest of the second book, which is where I'm at now, and then probably get through the third book of it so that I will get through about 25% of this within 2 days, which is awesome. And this is one of those editions too, like it's the Barnes and Noble edition, so it's got like all kinds of introductory stuff and endnotes, and I'm not really reading those because I want to just read the thing for itself. I think if I ever decided I wanted to read it again, I probably would go back through like the introduction and like the footnotes and stuff like that, but right now I'm just reading it to read it. And don't get me wrong, I like the Barnes and Noble editions of like all the classics that have been like republished. Like I think that they're really nice. I like seeing a lot of like the scholarly work that goes into building them, with building like the introduction and like building on like especially like these older texts about like when they talk about, you know, the state of the world and like what people were doing then, and like how Virgil had created the Aeneid and like how it relates to the Odyssey by Homer and all that stuff. Like that's all cool. Like I really like that, but first read through, that's not exactly what I focus on. Slytherin is still in the lead with the averages, but Hufflepuff is not too far behind. We're about 18 points, maybe about 17 and some change points behind them. So that's really good. I think either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how much more of my audiobook I can get through, I might be able to meet up with them, or I might be able to put in my own points, because right now I'm listening to the audiobook for Tell Me Lies by J.P. Pomare. This isn't the book I'm reading for the Mandrakes prompt, and it's very short. Like the audiobook was like 6.5 hours, and I've just been listening to it off and on all day because I've like been trying to combat my headache, but I also want to read it, so I'm kind of like debating. I might like later today listen to more of it depending on how I'm feeling. I might listen to it like while playing Animal Crossing or something like that.
You boys got any idea of what you're making?
None. I've made lines.
Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday. It is about 9:09 in the morning. I've been working for a little bit and then had to stop because basically a request I had to go back to the person who sent it because something wasn't right with it. So yeah, so I'm on a break right now. I'll be finishing up my break here in like the next 7 minutes or so, 7-8 minutes. But wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. So over the course of yesterday, I only read about 19 pages of the Aeneid, and I listened to about just over 3 hours worth of Tell Me Lies. So I think today I might finish Tell Me Lies and finally get something on the board for my own team. Currently, Hufflepuff is in third place with our averages. Ravenclaw, though, hasn't really put their stuff in as of yet. Aura tends to do that later in the day, as they like to get up a little bit later in the day. And so typically they'll put it out, like by the time I finish work, they'll be pretty much up to date for the most part. I try to keep mine on like as soon as stuff comes in, but sometimes I have to wait a little bit because I might be in the middle of something. But yesterday, though, I did, like you guys saw, sit outside, so I did complete one of the prompts for the Feel-Goodathon. I am now up to 5 prompts for Feel-Goodathon completed out of the 10, I think that there are. So I still have to do stretching, meditate, do something productive, watch a movie, and write a letter to future me. I think today I might do the stretch and meditate because I didn't go do my yoga yesterday like I wanted to because I ended up taking a nap instead, as I was not feeling very well with the impending storm that came overnight. And it was like a big storm, like really loud thunder. Like I woke up at like 2:30 in the morning to thunder, which was kind of strange. Like I didn't know how to handle that. Like it was kind of like, I thought for a second like there was some kind of explosion basically, but it was just thunder. Also yesterday I sat and talked with Jess for our buddy read, which was really fun. That was very nice, and I think that she and I have a lot of the same thoughts on this. Like this is the second time I've read this book now, but kind of like talking to her about some of the things I'm picking up and understanding a little bit more this time with reading it physically is interesting. But so today my goal is to first get through the next 5 chapters of Little Fires Everywhere, which today we're supposed to get up to, I think, chapter 11, which this book kind of is one of those books where it flies through really quickly. So basically chapter 11 is on page 140. So I have about like 80 pages or so, just a little over 80 pages to read, which I can do today before I have to meet with Jess, because likely what's going to happen is I'll read it during my breaks and then I'll read it while I'm eating my lunch, and then between work and between the end of my work day and when I'm going to sit and talk with Jess, I'll have like 2 hours. So I think that I'll take some time to do this like after I do my workout and yoga and stuff if I'm feeling it. Like I haven't really been feeling the best though the last few days. I keep wanting to like actually do like a workout or something. Monday I went for a walk with Robert, which was really nice. It really helped like build some cardio in me and all that stuff. And then yesterday I just wasn't feeling very well, so I ended up taking a nap instead. So yeah, so basically, I think that today I'll be able to finish Tell Me Lies at the very least, get through more of Little Fires Everywhere, and get through more of the Aeneid more than likely once I get through more of Little Fires Everywhere. I'm going to keep both on me just on the off chance that I end up actually getting through Little Fires Everywhere a lot sooner than I think, because like I kind of want to try to read a full chapter during my breaks, and I may go over a little bit just because. Plus, there's not really much for me to do today. Also, I almost forgot. I was just talking about it earlier today, and I totally almost forgot. We posted our first Instagram challenge today. So if you have not done that as of yet, you have until Tuesday to go and post your submission for the Instagram challenge. Everyone that participates in it by tagging us on Instagram and using the hashtag that we have for that picture is going to get 5 points for participating in the Instagram challenge. And then each of the hosts will be picking a winner that they will get an additional 10 points on top of the 5 participation points. So they'll get 15 points total for winning the Instagram challenge. So make sure that you go submit for that, because by the time this video goes out, it'll be like you'll have like a day left. So make sure you go do that if you haven't done so. So it's about 10 after noon right now. I've got my lunch made, some ramen with mushrooms and yellow peppers and a little bit of sriracha in it, because I'm getting kind of obsessed with sriracha at the moment. Like, well, I have been for the last several months. Like every dinner that we make to add some kind of flavor to our food, we either use like sriracha or like other spices to give us something, but more often than not it's sriracha, which is weird because I am not a person that likes spice, but sriracha is something I'm like building myself up to because I really like it. But anyway, so I'm getting ready here to listen to more of my audiobook or watch a YouTube video. I'm not quite sure yet, but I realized that the audiobook I have for Tell Me Lies, since it's an Audible original, it doesn't have page numbers. Like there's no version on Goodreads that has like a page count that you can use, or on Amazon. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with that, but I think that
my fellow co-hosts are going to help me figure that out, because I don't want to like not use this, but I don't have an ability to like actually get an accurate page count, and I'm not sure if I should just go for the whole 1 page 1 minute rule or what, because that's typically how fast I read as it is, but I don't know, like I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna sit and enjoy my lunch. I did get through so far 1 more chapter of Little Fires Everywhere, and I have also decided to annotate the book. I basically went through and annotated everything I read up to yesterday or the day before, and I've been continuing to annotate because I was kind of on the fence with it, but after talking with Jess last night, it seemed like a pretty good idea considering that I'm buddy reading this. So, and this is probably a book I'm going to keep forever anyway, because I really do like this story a lot, and I'm having a lot of fun annotating it. I don't annotate things very often. If I do any kind of annotation, it usually will be tabs, but I haven't even done that in a long time. And I know they're super long, but that's because the pages aren't that big, so I can't like, I don't want to like cover up any words or anything, so they're super long. Morning, guys. It is almost 8:30. I had to take my glasses off because I hate seeing the ring light in my lenses of my glasses. I haven't even made coffee yet. I just realized this morning. So yeah, I've just kind of jumped into work. I've got a pretty big project. Well, not a big project, but I've got a pretty extensive project that's probably going to take me maybe a couple hours. And that makes me kind of happy because I finally feel like I have something to do. But I haven't checked in with you guys because yesterday ended up being kind of crazy. Ryan's girlfriend ended up coming over yesterday, and Robert and I are starting to get to know her a little bit. Like, we don't really know her that well, and so we wanted to. And so yesterday afternoon at about like 1 o'clock, she had come over, and so I spent the most of my day sitting and talking with her and having a really good time. And so then we like sat and played a board game for a little bit and had dinner. We also went out and got ice cream again last night because we did that the day before and we did it yesterday. And it was really nice. It was a really fun time, but I didn't actually get to do any reading until that clip I showed you guys yesterday, and I just totally forgot to even like talk at all. So Robert, though, also last night went to his first night of actual work, which was really cool. He said that it was a really easy night. He didn't have really a lot that was asked of him. Just, you know, he's just stocking shelves overnight at the grocery store. So it's not too big of a job. So I think tonight we're supposed to get to like chapter 15 of Little Fires Everywhere. I have got to chapter 11. I did my reading for last night, and all of these green tabs, I'm just gonna say, are things that I'm kind of like, yikes.
about, like whether it's a character that says something that's kind of yikes worthy, or something happens and I'm kind of like, that's not good. But I have already gotten to the main point of the story, which involves the adoption issue with this baby that is involved. Something else though that I kind of caught myself doing that I didn't realize I had caught myself doing because I didn't know, is that I kept thinking that Mia and Pearl were Chinese American themselves. I thought that for some reason, I don't know why, maybe because Mia had been so enthralled in what Bibi was doing that I assumed she was also Chinese American, and that's why like she connected with her so well. But she's not. There's no indication of whether or not this woman is not white. Now, in the TV show that is going on, Kerry Washington plays Mia. So that leads me to believe that the original intent of the character may have been African American. But I don't think at any point in this story, and this is something I have to talk about with Jess because I can't remember now, is there any mention of what exactly Pearl and Mia are? And if not, I wonder then why they decided in the TV show to make her an African American woman. Where is it saying in the book? Because I truly don't remember. And I think it's so bad of me that I made the assumption that she was Chinese American, but I think that for some reason my brain had thought that because there wasn't like any development of any description of Mia, that because of her connection with Bibi, it made me think she might have been Chinese American. I don't know. It was very strange. I had this like epiphany happen last night, and I can't believe that I had even been thinking that at any point, because there's no indication whatsoever of Mia being a Chinese American. And I kind of hope that there are descriptions given to this at another point in time, because the only description we really get of Mia at any point in time is that she has a mole under her eye, one of her eyes, and a scar in her left eyebrow. This book, there's so much to unpack with this. It's so crazy. Like I think this is one of those books where it's like I'd have to have like a whole paper talking about the different issues involved with it. Like this would, if I had the chance to write a paper on this back in school, I think I would have, because there's so much to unpack with this. It's ridiculous. Like the amounts of racism that are in here, the amount of like ignorance that's involved, and the whole discussion of who necessarily should take care of this baby who was abandoned, whether it's the mother herself or the adoptive family that has been taking care of her for nearly a year now. I still have about, I think, just over 2 hours of Tell Me Lies. Because Ryan's girlfriend was here yesterday, I didn't end up being able to finish that audiobook because she got here like basically after lunch, and I spent a lot of my time, since I had nothing to do with work yesterday, sitting and talking to her. So I think today will be the day I finish Tell Me Lies, and like I said, moving more into Little Fires Everywhere for my meeting tonight with Jess, and finishing Little Fires Everywhere tomorrow, and then probably getting through more of the Aeneid either today or tomorrow, depending on how fast I can get through my reading stuff. All right, folks, I've done it. I finished Tell Me Lies, cooking dinner at the moment because I'm starving. I've got through another chapter of Little Fires Everywhere. I still have like 3 chapters left that I have to read in the next hour before I meet with Jess, which I don't think I'm going to get to, but I'm going to try my hardest at least. But I wanted to come on to talk to you guys about Tell Me Lies because I've been working on that audiobook now for a while, and with it, I've completed my Mandrakes prompt, which is awesome. I liked it a lot. I gave it a 4-star. I really liked it a lot because of what it kind of went into was the different ideas about like different mental health issues that kind of can lead to like sociopathy or psychopathy, because the main character is a psychologist, and she thinks that a lot of her clients typically will lie to her. I don't know how common this really is about people with mental illnesses, but specifically what is gone into here is like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline a little bit, bipolar disorder is also involved in this story, and even some possible like DID based things. Like the main character isn't sure about one particular character who they work with that they think might have, like they're not sure what exactly kind of personality disorder they may have. So basically the main point of the story is we're following this psychologist who obviously, like I said, has all these different patients, And one in particular, she believes, is starting to stalk her and possibly other patients, and has actually set fire to her home. She doesn't know who it is, but based on like certain clues that pop up, she thinks that it might be one particular client who is pretty far gone. He kind of has more psychopathy or sociopathic like tendencies, and so she's not really sure though if this is the person. And so the whole story is her basically trying to find out who is stalking her and who is essentially trying to rip her family apart, because they do some things that essentially reveal things in her past that could come back to haunt her, and they end up basically haunting her throughout this entire story. I really liked it. It was very fast-paced. It was, honestly, for as short as it was, I think the story didn't feel rushed. I felt like it actually was paced out really well, and I really liked listening to the psychologists themselves. I think that it was very well researched in a lot of different ways, but I also am not someone who is well-versed in psychology, nor do I have the kind of mental illnesses that were described in the book, so I think it would be interesting to see somebody with own voices rep for any of the mental illnesses involved in the story to kind of talk about it a little more if they get into it, because I think that they would have a much more valuable opinion on the book than I do. I just enjoyed it for the time I listened to it, but the ending was kind of meh. I didn't really know like what to think of it, because like it basically brought us back to where the beginning was, because the beginning of the story is where we hear this news report about a woman who shoved a guy into like a subway train railway, and the guy basically got killed by the subway. And the end kind of brings us back to that in a sense, but it doesn't really it's not very satisfactory. Like, I think the ending of all things was kind of rushed, if there was anything to be rushed in that story. But I don't know if necessarily Audible originals have a time limit, or if there's a specific length that they have to adhere to when it comes to their stories, so I don't really know. But I liked it enough to where I definitely would recommend it for a psychological thriller if you're really into those. And I love psychological thrillers. I think they are so very fun to watch and see how they kind of progress. So yeah, I ended up giving it a 4 to 5 stars, and now I have finally one prompt off of my list done, which makes me very happy. That one specifically was for the HouseCupathon for, like I said, my Mandrakes prompt, which that gives me, I think, regardless of what exactly the page count is, it's going to be 100 points, because the page range of 200 to 400 pages is kind of where that book lies, so that's 50 points by itself, and then 50 points more for the prompt itself. And I finally have finished a book this month that was on my TBR for the HouseCupathon, so that's awesome.
Hey guys, so it's I think going on about 10:30 right now, and I did finish and get to my goal for Little Fires Everywhere today. It took me so long today to get through this, because really the whole day has been a really emotional one. Things have been fine, I'm okay. I'm just, I think, a little drained from what exactly all happened today. I've done a lot of things today that involved a lot of emotional energy. I was emotional support for some family today that I found out some pretty awful news about. I found out my mom is trying to go protest in our hometown, but it's possible that there's going to be some major backlash from racist groups in my hometown that are threatening of harming people by throwing bricks or running people over or even possibly shooting them. So having to hear about that is very emotionally draining, because my mom has been thinking about maybe not going to the protest, but she really, really wants to support the Black Lives Matter movement. I had a friend today who, out of the blue, called me and needed someone to talk to because she's been going through a lot today, or actually for the last several weeks. And today at work, I spoke out about the racist things that have been going on in the world, and making it apparent to everybody that there are ways to help when it comes to supporting Black people, and what you can do if you don't necessarily want to go to the protests or you can't go to the protests. So just today in general, it was so rewarding, I think, to be there for so many people, but it was also very emotionally draining. I don't think I've ever had that much happen in the span of a day that involved so much emotional energy. But I'm not freaked out like I think I normally would. I feel very calm, I feel very centered, and I think that that's because all of the emotional energy I gave out today was for good. And so for all of the great work I did today, just in general with my day job, and all the emotional work I did for myself and for other people today, I felt so rewarded with just in general. Like, I felt like my heart was lifted because I did so much good today. I made people smile. I made people feel better. I made people also think and make them, talk about things that we needed to discuss, and just felt very rewarding today. I felt very, very good with how the day went. And so then I took a very nice hot shower. I took care of myself. I did a facial again tonight. I repainted my nails and I cut them down, and I redid my toenails as well. I used a body lotion that I haven't used in a long time because girl doesn't moisturize nearly as good as she should. And then, like I said, I got to my reading goal. I finished one book and I got through a huge chunk of another one. Today I read 111 pages of this one, and I'm thinking that this one, the rating will go up, because I think in general, as many green tabs as there are in this, which are kind of like my yikes things, it's yikes because I think that my mindset now with everything that's been going on is so different than it was even 6 months ago. And I think that by recognizing a lot of the issues that are in this novel, it makes me more appreciative of the fact that there are books that talk about different things, like what Little Fires Everywhere does. It touches on so many different things about family and adoption, and it talks about, unintentional racism and things that, like, people with the best of intentions for themselves or for their families are not necessarily always the really best things. So it's just such an interesting book, and Jess is loving it from what she told me earlier today. Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, 8 o'clock sharp. So last night I did not end up getting to talk with Jess. I pretty much fell asleep at like 11:30, I think. And I got a text from her this morning after I woke up where she was like, I got home yesterday and passed out. So I don't blame her one bit. So today we are going to be going over chapters 15 through... So today we'll be going over chapters 5 through 15, which I got to yesterday. So I think today I may take this one off of my reading and finish it tomorrow, since we'll more than likely have a meeting tomorrow to finish the book. So then what I plan on doing instead today is going through more of the Aeneid, which is the other book I've been kind of working my way through. Okay, so it is about almost 12:30 now. I've been working for quite a bit and have basically gotten all the work I need to get done today done. I don't know if there's going to be anything else that comes my way in the next like half hour, because my food is going to be delivered here very, very soon. Should get here in like the next few minutes. But I did want to go over how much I've read so far. So I have been reading quite a bit of the Aeneid. I started on page 50, and I'm currently on page 74. So I've already read about 24 pages. So I've gotten through all the rest of book 2, and I'm in book 3 at the moment. I have, I think, like 12 or so pages left of book 3. Yeah, about 12 pages left of book 3. So I think I can finish this during my lunch, which just arrived. So I'm gonna go grab that and enjoy my lunch, and probably by the time I finish my day today, I'll be done with book 3 and good part of the way through book 4, which is past the goal that I had wanted to get to today, which will make me very, very happy. Hey guys, so it's about 10 to 10 right now. I hope you can see me in this weird glare that's going on, but I had to bring my phone into the bedroom during my call with Jess to discuss Little Fires Everywhere because my phone died in the middle of our conversation. So I got through the rest of book 2 and the entirety of book 3 of the Aeneid. So I think that was probably like 35 pages or so, which isn't too bad. I kind of like to take that one a little bit slower. Tomorrow, though, I have a lot of errands I have to do. I have, obviously, to film tomorrow. I also have a meeting with Adri, Liv, and Ara to discuss how HouseCupathon is doing, because we're trying to do a meeting like every week to go over things that we may have issues with or things that we might need to be aware of, things of that nature. And then afterwards, I have to go back to where Robert and I used to live to return the library books that I had gotten from that library. And somewhere in all that time, I need to finish Little Fires Everywhere. I need to read the last 5 chapters of this, because tomorrow Jess and I will be continuing our discussion on it, and basically... right, good morning everyone. Happy Saturday. It is about 9:40 in the morning. I've gotten up way later than I expected to today, which is fine. I just didn't go to bed till very late last night. Like, I think I fell asleep closer to like midnight, which is not normal for me. For some reason I just couldn't sleep until then. So everything's kind of backwards as opposed to what I had originally planned for today, because I have a meeting, like I said yesterday, with Adri, Liv, and Ara around 11 to just go over HouseCupathon stuff, and then I have to go back to the town that Robert and I used to live in to drop off the library books I had checked out for the last like 2-3 months almost now. So I want to get those returned at the very least, just put in the drop box, and then I think I'm gonna bounce around town a little bit, go to a couple different places that I want to hit up to get some gifts and stuff. I'm going to look for some projects for Robert to work on with his new spray painting hobby. So I'm going to go, I think, to the craft store that's out there, which is the same one that's out here, but they have actual like paint and stuff. And then I don't know if the one out here has like those wooden projects and stuff that a lot of times the craft stores will have, where they're like pre-made and all you have to do is like paint them and maybe sand them down a little bit. So I think I'm gonna go get him something like that to work on that he would probably make use out of. So what I'm gonna do though now, because I was gonna do my filming this morning, but because I've gotten up later than I wanted to, I'm gonna hold off on doing my filming until this evening, because around 6 o'clock tonight I have to also meet up with Jess to finish up our buddy read with Little Fires Everywhere. Okay, so I, before my meeting, got through another 2 chapters of Little Fires Everywhere, so I have 3 left. I should be able to hopefully finish this today before my meeting with Jess. I just got done with my meeting though with Adri and Liv. Ara was not able to make it, but there wasn't much to discuss anyway because everything seems to be going really well with the HouseCupathon. So it is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. I've just returned home from out shopping and I got a few things. You can kind of see behind me a couple things I got. I got like a little fake plant at the craft store, and then that box right there is something I'm gonna have Robert decorate with his spray paint. So now basically I have a little bit less than 2 hours until I have to meet back with Jess, so I'm going to spend that time finishing Little Fires Everywhere. It shouldn't take me too long because I only have 3 chapters left and I have like probably less than 50 pages itself of the book. Yeah, actually just under 50 pages of the book left, so I should be able to finish this in like the next couple hours.
there, hi there, ho there. So, Jess had to cancel again today. There's just been a lot of craziness going on recently that she has never planned for that ends up going haywire, but finished Little Fires Everywhere. So what's really interesting is I have upped my rating of this. So when I first read Little Fires Everywhere about 6 months ago, I had rated it originally a 4-star, and I was waffling between 4 and 2-star because I wasn't exactly sure what was too extreme, if it was too realistic, you know, in a lot of ways. But having read it now physically, I understand so much more of the story. I feel like I've really grasped more of the story this time around, and I love it. It is such a good story, and truthfully, it makes me relate to it in a lot of ways that I didn't expect. Mostly because of the fact that this is literally small town big drama story. Like, this is literally what that is. And it's so funny to me because, you know, I've gone through experiences like this where things that don't really have anything to do with anybody else, everyone else in town gets involved with, and it's kind of ridiculous. But this is one of those stories that really showcases that, because literally the entire town gets involved in this big debate of whether or not this baby is supposed to go back to her birth mother, or if she should stay with the parents that have actually adopted her. In a sense, they haven't officially adopted her, but they're like in the process of getting the paperwork done. And it just talks a lot about like whether or not your past therefore dictates how your future is supposed to be, or how you are supposed to be affected now, because there's a lot brought up about not just the mom that is fighting to get her kid back, but about Mrs. Richardson, Mia. Like, there's so much about their past that affect their futures, and like it's a story that kind of goes into like, are we gonna let those things really dictate how we view people and how we let them live their life? So what I'm doing now is I'm currently trying to kind of work a new reading schedule around, because I wasn't expecting that book to take almost this entire first week. So I'm trying to figure out how many pages I have of all the books I'm planning on that are like a part of my TBR, that are like for challenges and prompts and things of that nature. And I'm trying to figure out how many pages I need to read per day to get them all done by the end of the month. And then I also have my other books that I'm working through that are kind of like the background ones. So like if I meet that page goal for the day, I can go to these other ones. Like today, I think I'm going to go and read the Aeneid at some point tonight, but I still have to film videos. So I think what I'll do is after dinner, sit and film my videos, and then read the Aeneid before I go to bed. So this is where I will end the vlog. So what I have accomplished so far this week is I finished an audiobook that wasn't a part of the HouseCupathon TBR, that didn't count for it, but that was Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I also then finished the audiobook for Tell Me Lies by JP Pomare, which I gave 4 stars to, and that completed my Mandrakes prompt for the HouseCupathon. And then, like I said, finished Little Fires Everywhere. This counted for both HouseCupathon for my Fawkes prompt. This was my second chance read for that, and it also was my buddy read pick for the FeelGoodathon, because I was buddy reading this with Jess. Then as far as other books I've gotten through, I have made so far this past week 86 pages through the Aeneid by Virgil. So this is my random TBR pick from May that I'm kind of just working through, but essentially any books I complete that I've started in the month are going to count for HouseCupathon in some capacity. Like, they'll count for page points at the very least. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. I know this vlog was long. I typically though like long vlogs. I really do. I love long vlogs. I don't like editing them, but I like watching them. If you guys like these vlogs, let me know. I love doing them. They're so fun to do, and I like being able to watch my progress over the weeks with especially like a month-long readathon like this. If you are doing the HouseCupathon yourself, let me know how you're faring in the comments below. So far, Hufflepuff is still in second place with our averages. We are actually getting quite a lead on Ravenclaw this time, but it is still very early. It is anybody's game at this point when it comes to this round. If you guys have enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.